Alright guys, TJHaLy here again today. Lots of stuff to discuss once again. I wanted to follow up really from yesterday's video which talked about, well, I pretty much discussed all the things that have been confirmed for next year's franchise league and the potential of Karma having a look at this situation where we are playing on console again rather than PC with controllers, as was rumoured a little bit ago. Possibly might move to that in the future, but not this season, which means that Karma might heavily be considering retiring, and from what I've heard it's pretty damn likely. So we'll have a look at that today. First few things to go through as well before we get into that stuff, because a lot of things have happened over the last day or so regarding franchising. 100 Thieves not potentially getting a spot, as I talked about in yesterday's video, just to follow up on that. So we'll go through a few things, then we'll look at the Karma situation for you guys, and I'm sure you'll leave your thoughts down below. So yeah, like if you guys enjoy, subscribe if you're new as always, I would greatly appreciate it. And here we go. So firstly we have this from Crowder yesterday, or actually, okay, this was yesterday, but he did a twit longer a few days ago, and you see, look, he's back to FaZe Crowder, new Twitter name and socials all updated because 100 Thieves have released 100 Thieves Crowder and 100 Thieves Priestahh from their loan situation, because they were on loan from FaZe earlier in the season. 100 Thieves haven't even attempted to make some sort of deal to keep them on the team, which really does show to me that there's no chance this season that 100 T are going to be investing to get a franchise spot, which is what I talked about pretty much yesterday. So you know, not ideal by any means, but that's basically how it's going to be. So FaZe, as a result, have a massive squad of players, and Scrap says here in this small little clip that they have an 80% chance of a franchise spot. This is something I've heard for a couple of months, but supposedly they have a relatively short amount of time to get this figured out. So FaZe, if they do get a spot, they've got a hell of a lot of players that they can potentially choose from, because they've got Crowder, who, as we talked about a couple of days ago, has got an offer to play as a player, which I guess is what he's talking about here on FaZe Clan, of course, because they can have a big team. Priestahh, of course, as we can see, FaZe Priestahh back on the FaZe Clan. You know, it makes a lot of sense. He hasn't changed his header yet, but he's getting there. FaZe Priestahh. You know, this is a big deal. This tweet, for example, FaZe Clan are yet to announce a spot, but would have a nasty lineup of players. So they'd have Celium, Scraps, Priestahh, Attach, Zero, Zuma, Phantoms, Gravity, Sensor even possibly, Crowder and RJ and Asim as well. So I don't really know if Sensor would be playing on this team. For what I've heard, it's unlikely, but you know, who knows? And you'd have like a 5-player team here. Now, you know, of course, a lot of these guys are not going to want to sit on the bench, are they? Guys like Priestahh, guys like Attach, who have come back off other teams, they're not going to want to sit on the bench and just play as a substitute for the entire season. I would imagine they would want to be on a full-time roster, which I'm sure they could probably get on. So that's going to be something up for contention, because you can have a lot of substitutes. You can have between 2 and 5 substitutes, supposedly. But those substitutes are not going to necessarily be the big dogs, because they're going to go to another team and play full-time, because that's what they want to do. They like playing Call of Duty. So that makes a lot of sense. So yeah, something else to consider right here. And yeah, Crowder did this little clip as well. There's music in the background, so I won't play it, but he says he's probably going to end up back on FaZe, and then they're going to decide what they do with him. So once again, pretty much confirming that 100 Thieves are not making an attempt to keep their players, and making an attempt to keep their spot next year in the franchise league. Moving onwards then, we have this, which is quite interesting, from Rated. FIFA 20 needs to hurry up and come out, thinking about streaming a Road to Glory on UT. I think that's Ultimate Team, which will likely lead me to streaming, loading up at least $500 worth of packs. I'll also be playing FIFA professionally if I don't get picked up on a franchise team. That's pretty interesting. I know that Rated is like a wizard at whatever FPS or whatever game really he plays. I remember he picked up CSGO, and he basically became global in 2 weeks. He played it for 2 weeks and was global elite, which is just mental. So fair enough. And he's really good at other games as well, especially FIFA when I have watched him play. So fair enough. I reckon he will get picked up onto a team. They had a good result at Champs, did units. One of Europe's most decorated players as well. So, you know, hopefully he will get picked up onto a team, but, you know, at least he's considering his options if that doesn't happen and doesn't be the case. So, you know, it'd be an interesting thing to see. And then we have this as well from Novus Vita GG. Thought I'd run through this. Top 10 players by weighted average KDs for the entire Black Ops 4 season. Dashy and Simp leading it up at a 1.31. Insight God is up there as well, who was on, of course, Singularity this event. So, yeah, the entire 2019 season, of course, a lot of these things are weighted incorrect, well, not necessarily incorrectly, they're correct, but they're heavily skewed by what happened at Champs, because I'm pretty sure Gunsy, he didn't play at an event apart from Champs. Maybe he played at the PLQ or something like that. So that 1.2 weighted average KD is, you know, a little bit skewed, right? You probably needed to look at this list and have, like, played at least 5 events or something like that. But GodRx is right up there. It was phenomenal. Brack, Envoy, Octane, Hook, and Scrapsy as well. So just some names to throw out. And then we have this as well. I don't know if you guys saw this. Era Eternity resuming operations. You guys might remember from the World War II season, we had Era situation. It's still a bit of a meme, like Era streaks if someone messes up a streak. And they're going to be resuming operations effective immediately. So some people are back. What they have said is that they're going to pay off all the debts that they owe to players still, and then they're going to try and make the run back again. So, well, look, I don't know if the ownership of this is going to be anywhere similar to the last time, because a lot of these organizations are pretty damn shady. Hopefully we can hope for the best, because our pro players and other guys like that are going to be on stable incomes and stable teams next season in the Pro League, in the CDL, from the franchise perspective. So Era Eternity might be looking at amateur teams, whatever, and you know, hopefully people don't get screwed over like they did before, but who knows? So, one quick look at this to look through the squad. So, these are the things that are confirmed so far. Atlanta, Dallas, New York, Paris, Toronto, Los Angeles, Minnesota, Florida, and Los Angeles indeed. Another Los Angeles spot, of course. So yeah, these are the things that are owned. They have Twitters, etc., etc., etc. And just thought I'd bring that to your guys' attention real quick. So let's get back to this Karma Cronus Max console play situation. I talked through this yesterday. Of all of the details that were released about the league, this one played on console is honestly probably a good thing for a lot of people. Probably it helps the amateur scene grow, because if you were forced to have a PC, like a really powerful one, and then have a controller connected to it, you know, I think the amateur scene would probably struggle a little bit more than it does already. I think that the idea that any kid can get a PS4 and play from a very early age and grind through the ranks in game battles, whatever the case may be, is probably more helpful to the amateur side of things and to Call of Duty in general than playing on a PC. But in the end, it might be the best way to go. And we'll go through exactly why in a second. So, as was pointed out in the comment section below by some, you know, excellent subscribers, that PS4 did introduce a few months ago a feature where you can connect a controller by like a wired connection. When you plug it in, you can choose, I think, to have it as a USB. Now, from what I've heard, and I'm sure the players looked into this, and MLG looked into this as a possible thing to use instead of a Cronus Max, but from what I've heard, that still, you know, increases some sort of input delay. Apparently, like, even the input delay from the wired connection by that USB option is even greater than what the input delay is by the Bluetooth connecting by that. So apparently that is not the solution, and that still means, and you know, if that was the solution, then I don't see why MLG would still be using the Cronus Max for the last few months. So just to explain this very briefly, if you didn't watch yesterday's video, the Cronus is a device which you can connect to your PS4 to ensure a wired connection. A controller, a PS4 controller, an Xbox is different. You can connect Xbox by a wired connection, which apparently is better wired connection than what you can do on the PS4, at least nowadays. So, you know, the Cronus Max is designed so that you don't have to use Bluetooth to connect your controller to the PS4, because the issue was at events, people with phones and all these things would mess up with the connections and the Bluetooth devices and whatever, and it would make the controller start malfunctioning, and it wasn't good for pros. It happened a lot. They introduced this Cronus Max thing. However, the Cronus Max is not a flawless device. As I mentioned yesterday, when I was refereeing at Birmingham last year, so many times times I'd have like this entire box of Cronuses, and if any problem was afoot with anyone's setup or whatever, I would just give them a new Cronus, and more often than not it would fix the problem. And you know, that's insane to think about. But also the big deal here, I think, which is what Canadian Tuero kind of goes into in this comment, it adds a slight delay in the input compared to Bluetooth. And the thing is that Bluetooth would be quicker with less input delay, but the issue, of course, is that it can get interfered by other Bluetooth devices and there's all of this stuff. So effectively, it's an issue on Sony, really, because I think Xbox has figured it out. The PS4, it just, you know, the wired connection that you can do still isn't as good as what Bluetooth would be, so they still have to use the Cronus at events because even that's better. The problem is that they have a variability in the amount of delay it causes. I think when I did a video a while ago on bad boxes and this kind of idea, I think that this may be the key to it. Obviously, there is this like silicon lottery where some chips are going to be better than other chips, and therefore some PS4s are going to be inherently slightly better than other PS4. So to some degree, the bad box idea works, but I think it's probably exacerbated by the Cronuses, because it's possible that a Cronus can have a variability in the delay. And, you know, what are you going to do? You're going to test all the Cronuses to make sure they feel like exactly the same delay before the matches? I guess you are, but maybe whoever's going to be testing them isn't quite as attuned as a pro player is, whatever the situation might be. So look, that's why players don't like Cronuses, and that's why Damon Carmabalo has said the following. I didn't play well this event, but I'm not going to lie, if next year is played with a third-party Cronus, I'm out. This still stands. If there's a Cronus being used, I'm open to coaching. Now, look, this sounds like words that he's just annoyed that, you know, he lost the tournament, whatever. He's just making a statement, but this could be for real, and I wonder what you guys think about it, because it will be played most likely with a Cronus because it is going to be on console, which means that Karma may be considering retirement here, moving into a coaching role for whatever team he moves to. I doubt it'll be OpTic Gaming. I doubt they're going to stay there. I doubt the team is going to stay together. I think pretty much every team is going to change to some degree. So it seems quite likely that Karma may move into a coaching position depending on what happens over the next few months. Now, it's interesting because maybe Black Ops 4, it wasn't Karma's best game. It maybe didn't exactly suit everything about his playstyle that made it work. Maybe Modern Warfare would be more suited for him. I wonder what he thinks about that. But if he is considering coaching, then that pretty much would be it for Karma's playing days, because once you move to a coach, it's difficult to see players coming back at this stage of Call of Duty. It happened with Crowder or Replays at the time back in Black Ops 3 Infinite Warfare times. He went to become a coach, and then he came back to play at the end of Infinite Warfare and, you know, won an event in World War II Stage 1 playoffs. So it did happen before. Karma, of course, retired kind of before the end of the World War II season when he got dropped off the team for Methods and Octane. They came in, then he comes back at the Black Ops 4 season, wins the first event of the season. So, you know, really cool story, to be honest, overall. But if Karma does retire again and move to a coaching role as a result of this issue, which he clearly doesn't like and get along with, maybe this is some kind of like not like a moral stance, but kind of like, you know, I'm going to retire if you don't sort these things out. And well, I don't really think there's much that they can do right now, especially the pros, unless there's an incredible amount of pressure put onto Sony to ensure that the wired connection that you can do on the PS4 is much better than it currently is. So I'd be interested to hear your thoughts on this. Like if you enjoyed the video, subscribe if you're new as always. If Karma does decide to move to a coaching role, that'll probably be it for his playing days, especially with the amount of players and substitutes that are going to be on these teams. If he does decide to coach, then it's probably, we're never going to see him playing again, especially in an OpTic jersey or anything like that. So end of an era for sure. Thank you guys so much for watching as always, and I will see you next time.